So I'm so excited to tell you guys more about my program, which was DIS Abroad, and their little tagline is Scandinavia as your home and Europe as your classroom, which I really love. So the contents of this presentation, I'm going to go through the locations, the program length, housing, food, transportation, the classes, the structure, entertainment in the cities that they have programs in, some personal advice, what I did to budget before I studied abroad, how those translated over to my finances once I was there, some travel on the side, some negatives, and then some positives. So DIS has two different locations. They started off just doing Copenhagen in Denmark, but they've in recent years added Stockholm, Sweden. And they have like a lot of different opportunities for program length. So you can go for either fall or spring semester, or you could do a whole academic year. And they also have summer programs as well, and they range from like a 3-week program all the way to 7 weeks. And even in between that, you can do a 4-week or a 6-week. So if you don't want to go for the semester, they have like a really long time you could be there in the summer with the same housing options, host family, that whole shebang. And so the different housing options that they have once you do decide to study abroad with DIS, well, their most popular is the homestay, which is what I did. But aside from that, a lot of people in my classes stayed in a collegium, which is when you live with DIS students, but you also live with international students, but they tend to be Danish students that are going to University of Copenhagen. And a lot of the setup for these collegiums is a single room, another room that might be a double room. You have a common area, and then there's another group of international students. So that's a really popular option, as well as the living learning community. And this is so all DIS students. So this one is a little bit more like closed off, which is why I didn't pick it necessarily, because you're only with Americans and DIS students. But it's really cool if you have like a specific interest, because they group them by interest that students have. So there's an outdoor living learning community where every month or every couple weeks, I believe, you go on like some type of outdoor excursion. Or there's the culinary living and learning community, which one of my classmates was in, and they would get together once a week and do some cooking and all that stuff. So really cool option. It wasn't my choice, but it is a cool option if that's what you're interested in. And then there is an independent housing opportunity, but I don't think that's very common, but it is an option. Whoops. Okay. And then, so I obviously chose the homestay experience, which was the best experience ever of my whole life. And these are some pictures. This is my host sister, Alberta, and we were making homemade fudge brownies. And she really kind of introduced me to like homemade cooking and baking. And she was only 14, but she was like a pro. So now I love to like cook and bake homemade and everything like that. And then on the right is the Snapchat they sent me before I left. When I was actually driving to the airport, they sent me that picture, and it just really like calmed all my nerves, and it reassured me like, okay, I'm gonna go to this new country that I've never been to, but I have this family that's like so excited to meet me and see me. So it was just like relief. So I had a really great homestay experience. I lived about 4 miles outside the city, but I would take the train to class every day. It was like a 15 to 17-minute train ride, and it was really nice because I got to experience the neighborhoods, and I got to meet their grandparents and their cousins, and I got to know them all really well. So that was my homestay experience, and it was awesome. So I have a video. DIS has these like amazing videos. Before I went to study with them, I was on their YouTube all the time, watching all these videos and getting me excited. So I'm gonna play these students' experiences with a homestay. And when I was making this PowerPoint, I watched this video before I put it in, and I cried because it just like brought back all the good memories. But I promise I won't cry. Can you hear?
I was really initially planning on living in the city and, doing more the typical student experience. And I feel like that would be fun, but I've also had an inclination to get to know the Danish culture and get to know a family on a more individual, intimate level, share these mutual experiences that you might not be able to have with a classmate.
So when a new student comes, we always take the new student into our family, and then we get a new big brother.
Yeah, to me it means a lot to have an older brother from the US. I can talk to him about things that I don't say to my sister and my mom.
This is my friend and friends that don't sing.
By living in a homestay, I feel like I get a larger perspective of Europe. I feel like I'm not just living in the middle of a city, being only surrounded by other Americans. And the fact that I get to experience this and come kayaking and see nature, a lot of students don't get to get out and explore the greater Denmark and all it has to offer.
For me, it's very important that they get familiar with the kitchen and the refrigerator because they feel more at home.
It's very funny to work in the kitchen when we have different measures and weights. So we have to learn them how a Danish recipe looks and how you can convert it to an American recipe.
It's really cool to have 5 little kids who look up to you and want to hang out with you all the time and just kind of be a kid again, and have them show me Denmark because they know it so much better than I do. Even if they're only 7 years old or 11 years old, whatever it is, they can still tell me so much more about the culture than anyone else I go to school with. So it's really cool to have that perspective.
This julefrokost is the Danish tradition, so they can understand how we celebrate it here in Denmark.
We consider them grown up. And we tell them you can go out and come home when you want, as long as you call if you don't come home.
We have our own space and they have their own space. And of course we come together as a family, but like when we need our own space, we have it.
They can come here and talk or not talk. It's their home.
The train is maybe 45 minutes into the city central. I read or sleep. Sometimes I just look into the countryside because it's a beautiful commute.
Actually, I have never worried about the commute because that's just a part of life. And when you travel, then you have to go to different places.
I knew it was going to be part of the life, and public transportation here in Denmark is just perfect. It's so easy.
But we intend very much to eat at least once a day, mostly dinner in the evenings.
After like a really busy day, you can look forward to having this long meal.
We tell each other about our day, we have coffee, we have cakes, so it's more of like a homey experience rather than just eat and go.
It's so relaxed and calm, and it really is a way to bring your experience together and everyone can share and interact and really be able to give whatever they've come up with that day back to the family, so it's interesting.
One of the highlights of living with Henrik is that we get along so well, and we're both very active.
Just being outside in the nature, that's the common denominator we have together.
We can go kayaking or we can go rock climbing and just have a great time and have great conversations, and we just get along very well.
The students help me very much, and they read with me and all those things. So it's so nice of them. It's a very special thing to have. I think it's a gift to have a student. It's not everyone who gets one.
I think what's really important is realizing that even though a lot of Danish people speak English, you're not going to be in the US, and you just have to keep an open mind. It's going to be different, and that's a good thing. That's the reason you're going abroad.
It's not easy to just go to a new place and just try to adopt everybody else's habits. So it's kind of like you want to try to do that as soon as you can instead of wasting time being uncomfortable. So just try to find your comfort in some way, but also open yourself to new things.
It's not always visible when they are here, but some of our former students tell us that that half year they have been here has made a big change in their lifetime.
All right. I love that video so much. Let's see if I can minimize this. Oops. Might have to reshare my screen. Uh-oh. Okay, I don't know how to get it back to the full screen. I apologize. So I'll just keep moving on. So the next part that I have to talk about is about the food and the meal plans, and just about some Danish food in general. That includes flæskesteg, which is a crispy pork dish that's usually served at Christmas time, which I had the pleasure of trying several times, and it's really good. My host family actually made it when my parents came to visit, so that was really fun. And then frikadella, which is meatballs, and they come as either pork meatballs or fish meatballs. And I remember I was very hesitant to try the fish meatballs at first, but they're actually pretty good. And then the traditional smørrebrød, which is an open-faced sandwich. And I'm also very proud of my Danish pronunciation. And then obviously Denmark is known for danishes and cinnamon rolls, and that was definitely the best part, was trying like all of their pastries. So students that live in a homestay are guaranteed to have 3 meals a day, but those 2 out of the 3 meals are kind of on your own. So they're not going to prepare your breakfast or your lunch for you. That's completely on you. But dinner was usually the same time every night, maybe like 6 or 7. And we usually spent like 2 hours at the dinner table every night, which was something that I never experienced, but it was very valuable to me just because we would just talk about our day, and my host family specifically would do a best and worst. So we'd all go around the table and say our best and worst of the day. So that was just a fun little mealtime tradition. And then other students that aren't in a homestay, so the Collegium, the Living Learning Community, are given a food voucher that basically it's about $600. And from the experiences of some of my classmates, I think it ran out a little bit quickly, but that's because they can use it almost anywhere. So even Starbucks, they could use it. So I think people get a little bit trigger happy and they're like, woohoo, $600. I'm going to go get myself a $6 coffee. So I personally liked not having to worry about budgeting with my food. I was always guaranteed a meal and they would cook dinner for me. I just had to do breakfast on my own, lunch on my own. And my host family was very sweet. And if there was any groceries that I wanted, I could go pick them up and they would pay me back for them. That wasn't everyone's experience, but my host family was just very generous and wanted to make sure that I had food that I was going to enjoy. So. And then these are some of the local stores, Netto and Rema 1000. Those are kind of like convenience grocery stores, more the budget-friendly ones. And then Normal and Flying Tiger are kind of like CVS in a way. They have snacks, they have medicine, toiletries, all that kind of thing. Very budget-friendly, because I know Denmark is an expensive country, but there's definitely ways to find things that you need for very similar prices to here. And these 2 stores are also just super fun. You can tell by their logos and their graphics. They're very like colorful, fun stores. So loved going there. And then some places to eat in Copenhagen. So Noma is this really fancy restaurant that's in Copenhagen, and it's been ranked as like the #1 restaurant in the whole world several times. So I'm pretty sure you need to make a reservation like a year in advance, and it's like a 20-course meal kind of thing. I did not personally go there, but I heard people talk about it a lot. And then the Paludan Book Cafe, I did go several times. a really good, tasty bookshop, but they also had like full course meals. It was just a really cool atmosphere, and that was about a block or two from DIS. So I just wanted to include that. And then public transportation. So the students at DIS that live outside of the city limits are given a transportation card because in the city they do very frequent checks for your tickets and things like that. It's on the honor system, which I think is a little bit common in Europe because in Germany it was like that. You could just hop on, but you never know if they would come around and check your pass. So you were provided a transportation card, and based on where you lived, it would show you like how many zones you could travel into. So I could travel throughout, I think, 4 zones, but if I wanted to go to the airport, I would have to pay an upcharge of like $2 or $3. And then if students live in the city, which some students did that lived in the living and learning communities, they're at an advantage for being in the city, like in the heart of it, but they did not have a transportation pass. So, and public transportation is very expensive there. So I'm glad that I had my pass. I used it all the time. And I have just like a little fun fact: 45% of Copenhagen natives use their bike as their main form of transportation, which I think is really cool. And they have the S train, which is an underground and above ground train. So it's a little different from a metro. And then they have the metro, the bus lines. It was just fantastic. Their public transportation was amazing. Um, and it's also silent when you get onto public transportation. It's so weird, but that's just Danish culture, is they're just very quiet to themselves. So if you go to New York, the subway is like loud and rowdy and crazy. But in Denmark, you can get on the train and you can hear a pin drop, which is really funny. But one of my friends who came to visit me, her favorite part was just getting on the train because she loved it so much, as did I. And I have a little video about public transportation.
Love, remember I simply come too desperate, but what good comes to those who wait? Out and now, so many years, chasing hope to catch a break, rattled out and off the rails. So many places still unknown, those on my back home. Don't really talk much anymore. 21 years old, and it's raining down. 21 years old, always loyal to a fault. Bitter towards the ones who left, but they return to open arms. Grew up all so similar, why were things different? Now wrapped up and moved away. So many places still unknown, those on the back home. And we don't really talk much anymore. 21 years old.
All right, and as you can see from the video, they have a very diverse array of public transportation. It's all very clean, very well organized, so it's super easy to get around, and they have apps that will tell you, okay, if you want to go from here to here, you need to take this, this, and this, switch here, that kind of thing. So not stressful at all. It was really fun. Okay, so now I'm going to talk more about the study part and study abroad, because that's obviously the most important reason a student wants to go abroad, is so they can learn. So my program offered 237 plus courses to choose from, which when I was looking for a program, I was kind of like amazed. I was like, wow, they have so many classes, and just the variety. They had art history, psychology, biology, neuroscience, and all of the professors are experts in their field. So this teaching is kind of like their side job. So they take people that are living in Copenhagen that are doing these things to put these courses together, which is really something that I think is unique and attracted me to the program because I knew I was going to get a really good education here. And so something unique about DIS is you have a core course, which is kind of like your homeroom. It's your main program of study when you're at the program in Copenhagen. And with your core course, you do 2 study tours. One of them you go somewhere in Europe for a week, and then the other one is a shorter tour, and you go either to Germany, Sweden, or you stay in Denmark and go to Greater Denmark, which is what I did for like a short study tour. So a core course is, like I said, someone that you travel with. You really get to know your classmates and this professor that you have. There's a lot of courses to choose from. Every major, I think, would be able to find a core course at DIS. And then aside from your core course, there's lots of electives to choose from. And as I said, there's real life expertise. These people know what they're talking about, and it's really cool to learn about your field of study from a different cultural perspective. So my core course was European Clinical Psychology, which really attracted me to the program because I want to be a clinical psychologist. So I was like, oh, wow, well, this is perfect. So I just have a couple examples of popular programs that students chose, from psychology to neuroscience to business to biology. Really cool classes like neuropsychology of brain injury, disaster management leadership, medical biotechnology and drug development, like classes that CNU doesn't even have. Really cool opportunities. So like I said, I did psychology, clinical psychology. And then this was my curriculum as a psych major and leadership minor. So I did clinical psychology. I took psychology of leadership, women in leadership, which was great because I got credit for my leadership minor. So I got to take awesome leadership classes when I was abroad, basically almost finished my minor. And then I took the Danish language because I thought it would be super fun. And then that's me outside of DIS, which is literally in the middle of the city, which is so awesome. And then another thing that I think is so wonderful about this program is you have many opportunities to enrich your academic experience. So you could join a research lab and get class credit for conducting research abroad, which I think is an amazing thing to have on your resume, especially if you want to pursue graduate school. And they also have practicum experiences. So for example, for some of the psychology core courses, there was a practicum where you would go somewhere in the city and get hands-on like internship experience for class credit, which is really amazing. And then they had foreign language classes, more than just Danish. They had German, all that kind of stuff. So they have great academics, but on top of that, they have all these other opportunities that I think is really unique to DIS. And then some entertainment abroad. The program was really wonderful at providing students with free things to do, such as the outdoor fitness training. They met once a week, I think on Tuesdays. And my friend that I met there went to this because she was actually training to run in the Copenhagen Half Marathon. So they did like lots of exercises, and then they also had a club fair that I think it was about over 40 organizations. So I went to that, and I originally was thinking about joining one of the club sports teams, which was a Danish volleyball team. And the coach kept emailing me. He was like, do you want to come play with us? And I was just too busy, but I just thought it was cool that they were really good at outreach and wanted these American students to be involved. And then a couple other fun things you can do for free is go to the Kastrup Sea Baths, which is a beach by the airport, and then Newtown, which is the really colorful harbor. obviously free to walk around. And then Tivoli Gardens is the amusement park in Copenhagen, and I ended up getting a monthly pass, which only cost me $5 a month, and I could go as much as I wanted. Versus if you just went for a one-time fee, I think it was like $40. So I went a lot of times, and it was just fun to walk around, see the gardens, get a snack. So yeah, I loved that. And then these are some pictures. The picture on the left is at this place off the harbor called Islands Brugge, I think it's pronounced. And so my friends and I jumped off that little like structure thing that they had. That was one of the first things that I did with them. And then on the right is when I was at Tivoli Gardens, and it's just so beautiful and such a fun place to walk around. And then some program advice I have. So a lot of the students around me were saying how they had a trip planned every single weekend that they were studying abroad. And so I found that it's important to remember like where you're planted and really enjoy and explore your home base. As fun as it is to travel, I think most people will miss, Copenhagen the most because that's their home. So spend as much time there as you can, as well as immerse yourself in the culture as much as you can. Go bike in the bike lanes. It's really scary. There's a lot of rules, but it's super fun and you can feel like a local. Obviously, choose to live with a host family and try to learn the local language, even though everybody speaks English. And if you say something to them in Danish, they'll probably respond to you in English. But I mean, I think that's one of the fun parts about being in a new country. And then, so the classes at DIS were adjacent to the longest shopping street in the world. So, another one of my pro tips is try not to walk on that street after class, as tempting as it might be, because I spent a lot of money on clothes because it was just so close. So, I would say save that money for maybe a nice dinner with your friends in the city, like an experience you can have. And also, don't be afraid to try all the Danish food. It looks intimidating, but it's delicious. And then budgeting. So I set aside about $4,000 for the semester after saving up over the summer. And it basically lasted me the whole time, except towards the very end, I had to ask my parents to help me a little bit just to get home and get, food at the airport and all that stuff. But most of my expenses came from travel, including plane tickets, lodging, food, drinks, public transportation, that kind of thing. And if I could do anything differently, I would have spent less money on cute clothes and souvenirs, and just save that to treat ourselves like out to a nice dinner. So yeah, and then this is my Wiener Schnitzel that I had in Vienna, which was so good. And then these are some of my personal tips of how to ease some of the financial pressure that comes with the semester abroad. Obviously, budget airlines is a big one. If you'd like to travel, I think a lot of people are familiar with that trip, with that little tip and trick. I applied for a lot of scholarships. So I got a financial aid scholarship from DIS. I think it was $3,000, which was a really great help. I also applied to the Captains Abroad Scholarship, which I got, which was great, and then PLP too. And then I would just recommend to other students to plan ahead and, plan as far out as you can if you think about studying abroad for a semester, because then you have more time to set aside money for your experience and to save up. Also, I think a lot of people feel like they need to travel every weekend, but as I said before, it's important just to enjoy your surroundings and find some free experiences in your area. And also, I had mentioned a couple budget-friendly grocery stores that are great, and also to just pack smart and bring items that you don't need to buy once you get abroad. So where did I travel to? I was lucky and I went to a lot of really cool places. I went to Belgium, Holland, Sweden, Norway, Germany, Austria, Italy, Ireland, and unexpectedly Iceland. I had a little detour on my plane ride home. And then some of my trips I planned in advance, but I didn't plan any trips before I got there. I think I kind of like wanted to, and my mom was like, no, don't do that. Like, you don't know what your schedule's going to be like, that kind of thing. So, like, they ranged from 2 months in advance to maybe a couple weeks in advance when I planned my Germany trip. And then I also wanted to have a well-rounded travel experience and travel by plane, boat, ship, like all that kind of thing. So I looked into those opportunities as well. And as I said, when I did travel by boat, I would stay on the ship. But other places I stayed were hostels, which were great. We stayed in a private residence, so like a room in someone's apartment, which was like really cheap, and they were so cool. That was in Germany. And then obviously just your typical Airbnbs. So I have a couple pictures. So when I went to Italy, went to Parma, my thing was I would get magnets from everywhere I went and like take a picture. Um, that was in Amsterdam, the clog factory, I think. Germany and Munich, which was one of my favorite trips that I went on. Okay, and then I hate to talk about the negatives because I'm just so positive about this whole program and experience, but I would say the cost of the program might turn some students away. And if they are disgruntled, tell them to talk to me because I'll convince them. But Denmark is an expensive country to live because they have very high taxes, because they have socialized medicine. So, I mean, another positive is that if you are sick, if you would like to talk to a therapist, like you can have access to all those things without paying any fees. Another thing that I think I was a little bit worried about was the weather because I was thinking it was going to be so cold, but it really was not that bad. It never really got below the 30s when I was there. And also, it does rain a lot there, but they have this thing called hygge, which is like a feeling of coziness. And it's like their cultural thing to combat the gray weather. And the tuition was definitely expensive, I believe it cost the same to go there for a semester as it would to go to school here for a whole year. But as I said, there are scholarship opportunities, and I personally think that the price was so worth it. I would do it over and over again, as would my parents. And then I think some people might really want to live in the city, but you're just not guaranteed that. So people might be a little bit thrown off by the commute, but I personally really loved it, and I think you can make it a positive. So some of my positives would be that the academics of DIS were just really amazing, very high quality, and that the program was friendly to all majors. A very hands-on learning experience. We would go out into the city all the time and visit psychologists and get to know like their experience as, working in healthcare and that kind of thing. And I also think the location is a great positive because it's continuously the happiest country in the world. Denmark and Finland go back and forth a lot, and Iceland as well. So I said study abroad here to find out why. And then also the tuition is a little bit expensive, but included in that is a week-long study tour to different countries. So I went to Austria, and I mean, this includes your airfare, they buy you dinner, they even, like one night we had bottomless red wine, which was really great, and it was included in our tuition, so we didn't even have to pay for it. And then also, I kind of wanted to go somewhere unique and somewhere different, and I feel like not a lot of people study abroad in Scandinavia. A lot of people go to Spain or Italy, which no shame, those are great places. But I just wanted to be different and unique, and it's very different than the rest of Europe, which I really loved. And then I have a couple other DAS abroad students that sent me a quote. These are also some of my best friends. So this is Catherine, and she said that I really loved how DIS emphasized experiential learning through field studies and traveling both within Denmark and beyond to other countries as a part of the curriculum. It's also really cool how professors are experts in their field and also work part-time while teaching. It's obvious that they're passionate about what they do and enjoy sharing it with us. And then this is Deanna, and she said, Choosing a homestay experience through DIS provided me with an immediate support system moving across the world for a semester. My host family, professors, and friends truly made a positive, lifelong impact on me. And then I just wanted to include some stuff about DIS and diversity. I thought it was really cool that they have a diverse identities social club. So once a week, if you were a student of color or if you were a part of the LGBTQ plus community, they had weekly meetings with how to, kind of a support system for that group while you're studying abroad. So I thought that was a really cool thing that they offered. And then about 8% of the DIS student population are international students. So I thought that was kind of cool as well. And then I just have their little diversity statement at the bottom. And then I have some pictures. So this is in Copenhagen, obviously the famous harbor, and then the Little Mermaid. And this is also in Copenhagen. This is one of my host sisters, Alberta, and their bunny, Lady, who I loved so much. And then this is me and my friend Catherine when we went to Amsterdam, had some stroop waffles. They're really good. And then I went to Bologna, Italy to visit one of my friends from high school who was studying abroad there, and that was really fun. And then my parents came, we also went to Sweden, and you can get to Malmö, Sweden, like 30 minutes on the train. So it was just really cool to just pop over there really quick. And then that was in Germany. I loved Munich. And then we also went to Salzburg, Austria when we went to Munich because it was about like an hour and a half on the train, which was beautiful. And then we went to the Neuschwanstein Castle, which was so pretty. And then that was in Ireland, the Cliffs of Moher. And then Oslo, which is when I did the overnight cruise ship. That was an awesome experience as well. So that's all I have. Do you guys have any questions? And then I put my contact information for like future students or.
Very good job. One thing I had a question about it, in the homestay, were you the only student? Because it seemed like some students were by themselves and some maybe were paired up with another student.
Yeah, so I was by myself. I had my own room and everything. And when you filled out the housing application, you could put whether or not you wanted a roommate because I personally, like, I wanted my own room, I wanted my own family, that kind of thing. But actually, a lot of students, when they wanted that experience, they also wanted another American. So there was an option to say, like, I would like a roommate. And I'm pretty sure that I didn't know anyone that had a roommate that didn't want one. So yeah, it was just me.
Was it a different cost was it like requesting a single or is it just a preference thing?
It was just a preference thing. So there wasn't any difference in cost, which was nice too.
That is nice.
Yeah.
I had a few questions. Can you talk a little bit more about the setup of your classes? I know you mentioned the travel that you did, but can you talk about the breakdown of grades and kind of what your grade consisted of? So was it, that you had 2 papers or was it only a final, that kind of thing?
Yeah. So their like class structure was not like I didn't have homework assignments every single night. It was mostly just your midterms and your finals. And I mainly only had papers. Like even my psychology classes, I was writing papers, which was kind of crazy because I don't really write papers for psych here. But my Danish class, I had a couple exams, oral, written, reading, like that kind of thing. So like, and also participation was a part of the grade. Like it wasn't just you had one midterm paper, one like final paper. So it wasn't like, you were stressed out about like these 2 assignments. There's also participation and all that stuff.
Gotcha. Do you feel like your studies at CNU helped prepare you for the type of class that you were taking in Denmark?
Yeah, definitely. I think so. It was definitely more, I don't want to say intense, but I think a lot of at least before I went abroad, I was like, oh, the classes, like, they're going to be a joke, but they actually weren't. And I wanted them to be rigorous and worthwhile. So yes, I would say that CNU definitely like prepared me for them.
Okay, good. And then what did you do for your cell phone?
Oh, okay. So the program, they are really good about, having something for the students. So when I got there, like immediately after I got off the plane, they had like a SIM card for me with instructions. They gave us the SIM card and we just had to pay for our plan. And mine was only $14 a month. And I think I got like unlimited unlimited in Denmark. And then when I went to different countries, I think I had like 5 gigabytes of data for each country that I went to. So I was traveling with friends. So if one of us like ran out, we had another person that had data, but it was really never a problem. So yeah, the phone system was great because it was really cheap and it was easy. And they also had like staff that were on site if you were having problems with your phone plan. Like they had representatives like in the library to help you out. So yeah, I didn't even think of that. That's like a huge thing, but it was no sweat off my back. So that was good.
Excellent. Did you have any sort of orientation?
Yes, we did. So they have like a couple different arrival dates, like the first like 2 days. And then orientation, I believe, was on a Sunday. It was like in one of the huge concert halls in Copenhagen, and like the director spoke, and they had like opera singers, and it was really cool.
That's funny. Yeah.